I grew up hearing stories about this girl in the red coat. They say she's one of the most dangerous ghosts that exist, especially if you hear her footsteps behind you. Apparently, people have even died from turning around to look for her. Well, when I was 11 years old, I think it was Christmas Eve, I heard her footsteps behind me. And to this day, I still wonder if she's still out there looking for me. It all started when my friend told me the story of the red coat girl. The first time he ever heard this story was back when he was a soldier during the Korean War. He said that there was this girl who wore a long, dusty red coat everywhere she went. Her red coat was so bright compared to everyone else's drab gray or brown coats, so you couldn't miss her when she walked down the street. And apparently she had no family. She lived alone in an old apartment building by herself. One evening, my dad and his best friend were walking home from the war after a long day of fighting. They were exhausted and wanted to rest, but they couldn't go straight home because they had to pass by the girl in the red coat's apartment first. For some reason, the girl in the red coat made them feel uncomfortable, like they could sense something evil coming from her. I guess they just thought it was because they had just come from such a long, hard day of fighting and seeing so many dead bodies and things like that. But little did they know, this feeling would soon turn out to be real. When they got close to the apartment building where the girl lived, they heard what sounded like high heels clicking on the concrete sidewalk. They stopped and turned around, but didn't see anyone. My dad and his friend looked at each other and shrugged it off. Maybe it was just a trick of their ears. After all, they had been under a lot of stress lately. So they continued on their way home. But then they heard the clicking again, only this time it sounded much louder and much closer. As they turned around again to look, they saw the girl in the red coat walking towards them. Her face was pale and her eyes were black and soulless. She was also barefoot, and even though the snow was over a foot deep, she didn't seem to care. She just kept walking towards them. My dad and his friend stood there frozen in fear as they watched her approach. They felt the cold wind blow past them, even though there wasn't a cloud in the sky nor a leaf on any of the trees. The girl came closer and closer until she was right in front of them. Then she stopped and stared at them with her black eyes. They couldn't move or speak. They were completely paralyzed with fear. After what seemed like an eternity, the girl finally spoke. Her voice sounded like nails on a chalkboard. She said, "Do you have a cigarette?" My dad's friend reached into his pocket and pulled out a pack of cigarettes and handed it to her. The girl took one and lit it with a match. As she inhaled the smoke, she turned back around and started walking away without saying a word. As she disappeared inside her apartment building, the two soldiers let out a breath they didn't know they had been holding. They looked at each other and ran in the opposite direction. As fast as they could, they didn't stop running until they got home. From that night on, my dad never went near the girl in the red coat's apartment building. He didn't want to risk whatever it was that she had done to him or his friend. He knew that she was evil, and he didn't want anything to do with her. That was the first and last time he ever saw her. He told me that story countless times when I was growing up, and I always listened intently. I remember the exact spot in our house where we would sit, and I can still see the look on my dad's face as he told me the story. As I grew older, I began to think that the red coat girl was just a story my dad made up to scare me. But deep down, I knew it was true. On Christmas Eve of 1972, my parents and I were getting ready to open our presents. We had a big Christmas tree with lots of presents underneath it. It was everything a kid could ask for, but I couldn't focus on anything my dad was saying. All I could think about was the red coat girl. I had heard that story so many times that now I was obsessed with it. I kept asking myself, what if she comes after me? What if she asks me for a cigarette and I don't have one? What will I do? Then all of a sudden, I heard footsteps outside. They sounded heavy and slow. At first, I didn't pay any attention to them. I figured it was just the wind. But then they got louder and more distinct. I could hear them getting closer and closer to our house. I stopped playing and started listening intently. Were these footsteps real or just my imagination? I went to the window and looked out. I saw footprints in the snow leading up to our driveway. They were big and covered in blood. Then I saw a pair of black shoes. They were huge and dirty. Fear ran through me like a jolt of electricity. Could it be? Is she here? As I watched, a pair of black hands covered in blood appeared at the top of the stairs. Then, a bloody head emerged. She was even more terrifying than my dad had described her. Her eyes were soulless and empty, like two black holes that sucked the light out of everything around them. I couldn't look away. I was mesmerized by her beauty. She took another step forward, and the light from the porch light glinted off of something in her hand. It was a long, thin object that looked like a bone. She raised it above her head and screamed, "Do you have a cigarette?" I wanted to scream, but no sound came out of my mouth. I couldn't move or speak. I was completely frozen in fear. The girl in the red coat took another step forward, and I could see the bone in her hand more clearly. It wasn't a bone, it was a human finger. She held it up to me and smiled, revealing a set of sharp, yellow teeth. I finally found my voice and screamed, "No, I don't have a cigarette." She took another step toward me and I backed away. I stumbled over my own feet and fell to the ground. I tried to crawl away, but the girl in the red coat was too quick for me. She was on top of me in an instant. and I could feel her hot, fetid breath on my neck. I closed my eyes tight and waited for the inevitable. But it never came. I slowly opened one eye, then the other. The girl in the red coat was gone. I was sitting on the floor next to the Christmas tree with my presents scattered around me. The only evidence that she had ever been there was the footprints in the snow outside and the feeling that I was being watched. To this day, I still wonder if the girl in the red coat is still out there looking for me. If you hear footsteps behind you and turn around to look, legend has it that the girl in the red coat will appear and offer you a cigarette. If you accept, she will take you to her apartment and never let you leave. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.